What is up? Gear Squad, Shane Gear here, bringing the video. Today we are back talking about Destiny 2. I know you can't see me, you don't know what's going on right now. You're like, Chain Gear, what is this? This is like, seriously, this is probably one of the most, I don't know, nerdy Destiny 2 videos we're going to have for a while. Usually, I've been doing kind of some more, grabbing my phone, saying hi to you all, things like that. But look, the TWAB this week at Bungie dropped, and it is one of the spiciest TWABs that we have seen in a while. So I am actually not even home right now. I'm in Boston for PAX East. If you know, you know. I'm super excited for it. But this news is just so crazy that I had to just pause for a second. I had to hit up the homie Bartholomew Prime.
Yes,
I
sir.
had to hit him up, and I was like, Darth, I need a PvP person's opinion on these crazy changes. So I'm obviously not by myself. I'm with Darth. Darth, how you doing, man?
I'm good. This is too much. So much to go over.
Yeah, it's crazy. If you guys can see, like in the top right hand corner of the screen, I actually have I use this application to sometimes just listen to articles or listen to emails, and it would take 31 minutes to like have that application like read through this TWAB. It says something like 9,000 words or something like that. It's crazy. It's crazy. So, like, for me, I was like, we're not going to review the whole TWAB. I am more interested generally in just talking about the craziness that is about to change in the PvP sandbox for Destiny 2. So, if you're not a Crucible person, then this might be kind of boring to you. So, look, if you're interested in PvE, there are a lot of great changes for PvE. There are some sad changes for PvP or PvE. Like one of the examples Darth actually mentioned earlier was Arbalest is getting a nerf. Arbalest is still going to be able to one-shot barriers, but it's not going to do nearly as much damage generally to champions. And so, hey, it is what it is. It'll still be a beast for, breaking down shields, for breaking down barriers. But once you do that, you might want to swap to another weapon to do some damage. Up to you, up to you. But there's a lot of other things going on. But for PvP, I had to bring up Darth and I had to talk through this. So let's not waste any more time. We're just going to take a look at some of the big high level changes here. This all really started by bringing out good old Chris Proctor, who's the lead basically on weapons in Destiny Sandbox, and he's basically talking to us all about the philosophy of these changes for the sandbox and all of these things. And I wanted to start with that, so I'm just going to read these off. There's only 4 of them. Introduce levers to tune how players build for airborne gunplay. So that's number 1. That's the first thing that they're thinking about, the Sandbox team was thinking about when making a lot of these changes. Because right now, when you're thinking, oh man, I want to play in the air, you really only have like one choice, and that's to put on an Icarus grip. Right? I mean, you can play on different character, like, for example, Top Tree Dawnblade, or maybe you could throw on some Lion Ramparts and shoot from the hip or something, but outside of that, there's really nothing else but putting on that Icarus grip, right? So this was the part number 1, is introducing levers to tune how players actually build crafting for airborne gameplay. You want to play in the air, they want to give you the opportunity to do that, but they definitely want more trade-offs than just saying, throw an Icarus grip on it, right? So that's number 1. Number 2 is allow players to mitigate for flinch. So flinch, I know Dark's got a lot of feelings about flinch. Flinch is kind of crazy, right? I mean, you're trying to shoot somebody, they shoot you. You're trying to shoot back. You got to like run away because you feel like you're not even going to hit your shot. And it can kind of be annoying. Some players will build into flinching their enemies. Other players will build into unflinching, making sure that they don't get flinch resistance. And so now they're again doing more of that. They're doing more for you to be able to build into mitigating flinch. Which we're going to talk about all these things. These again are just the things that they're focused on. So reduce the number of one-hit kills in PvP. Obviously, this is a huge one, right? This is huge. Think back in like D1 days where you were one banging with grenades, right? We're talking about reducing one hits across the board. So as you guys are aware, I think this is actually probably one of the weirdest and most confusing things when you're first coming into the Destiny sandbox is you're having fun playing Destiny PvE, and then you're like, I'm thinking I'm going to try this Crucible thing, and then somebody snipes you, and you're like, what? Like you've never gotten one shot in your life playing Destiny, you know? Like you go in and you're playing, Shawhan's storyline, you play a strike, whatever. The bosses aren't one hitting you. If you get sniped, you have to get sniped like 5 times by an ad. But a Guardian snipes you once and you're dead, and it's really jarring. So what they're saying here is they don't want that to happen as much as it is right now, right? A lot of one-hit kills happening in PvP, and they want to try and tune that. And then the last thing is address common feedback on weapons across all game modes. That's one that I think a lot of people want to hear. We have a lot of feedback, and people are always like, "Hey, like when are you going to fix this? When are you going to change it?" So these are the 4 things that they're working on. So all the things that we're going to talk about, it has to do with these things, right? Anything you want to dive into first, Darth, or do you kind of just want to go down the list, starting with Glaives? Totally up to you.
Um, I actually wanted to start with the special ammo change for
Okay.
PvP.
Phooey. All right. Yeah, special weapons. So let me scroll down here. Now you'll see a lot of things here like flinch, airborne, and we're gonna jump back and forth because Darth wants to start with special ammo. And I think that that's really, really important to talk about here. So let me go down. Here it is: one hit kills and special ammo. So again, we're not gonna read this whole thing. That would be crazy. Now, do you want to? I'm thinking we actually start by talking about like the first topic, kind of that's in this one hit kill special ammo area, which
Yeah,
is the reduced bonus damage. Can we start there?
yeah, that works.
All right. So first thing I want to mention is empowering rift, high energy fire, inertia override. Those are changing from 20% to 15% damage increases against players. No effect in PvE, by the way. No effect in PvE. But if you're standing in an empowering rift, you're not going to do plus 20%. You're going to do plus 15% extra damage. Darth, how do you feel about that?
This is huge too,
Mm-hmm.
because there's a lot of, I don't want to, well, I'm gonna say it's cheese. It's cheese. There's a lot of cheese you can use with these 3 buffs here. Like recently, Le Monarch has surged in empowering rifts. That's been crazy. That's also getting changed too.
Yep.
Um, High energy fire is just so easy to proc now. Like as soon as somebody gets a super, you basically have a high energy fire now.
Yep.
Um, Inertia override is super easy to proc as well. It's literally just a slide over special.
Yep.
I thought this here was pretty significant because this changes the way a warlock will play now, big time.
Yeah.
They normally use healing rifts anyway, but you had the little eccentric people using their empowering rifts, and they were annoying for sure. But now they have to be more wary about what they're using now.
Yeah. Those secant filament legs, the new exotic warlock legs, had me
Yeah.
one shot bodying with aggressive snipers this season. And I wasn't doing it, and then Iron Banner came out and was like, "You got to get sniper kills," and I was like, "All right, let me stand in this rift," and you get Devourer every single time you get a kill with that thing, and I was like, "Yeah, this is
Mhm.
nice." So I totally and I was seeing people do some crazy things with these buffs for sure. I know the first thing that people are gonna say against this is Laurely Splendor. I know that's the first thing people
Yeah.
are going to say is like, what about Laurely Splendor? Like, where's that at? But there is more conversation around special ammo, so we'll get to those things as well. But I thought this was interesting, just a kind of a blanket nerf, not a terrible nerf. I think in my head as well. I think this is still going to affect your TTK for a lot of primary weapons. It's obviously going to leave people. I mean, on 1% health, right? Like, if you can't body shot with an aggressive sniper with 15% extra damage, you're going to leave them like you could breathe on them and they're gonna fall, right? So
Triple them. Yeah.
yeah, I mean it's gonna still be insane, but I think it's not right. It's not gonna be as cheesy as it was before. You're gonna have to actually kind of follow up, and do some other things. And high energy fire, like you said, it's kind of free, right? Like in trials, the ability to steamroll just because of high energy fire was kind of crazy, right? Like I'd pop my super, which might be a
Hmm.
bubble, right? It might be a bubble, and you guys don't even have to necessarily be that close to me. Like you have to be close enough to get the buff, but then all of a sudden you have high energy fire. So all three of us are attacking one person or two people with a bubble buff or high energy fire, and it's crazy. And then that just kind of steamrolls, right? The next person pops they're who cares what it is, it might be top tree dawn, it might be it literally doesn't matter because all we have is we have these crazy weapons that are going to do a ton of damage, and it's still going to be good, but it's just not going to be cheese, which I think is a good way to put it. Okay, so with those changes, another massive change: no more ammo scav. No more ammo scav. This threw me off. I was thinking about it too, because everybody, they kept saying, hey, look, if this isn't a big enough change, they nerfed ammo scav. They said if this isn't a big enough change, we'll come back to it. And they did. And so now there are if you have an ammo scav, first of all, take your ammo scavs off today. Take your ammo scavs off today. Start getting used to these changes now. Put on some reloaders, some loader mods. Because you're not going to be able to use this thing anymore. Those scavengers are now completely worthless. So when you get a kill on somebody, if they have special, they're only going to drop one shot for you. So if you actually win your duel and they weren't trying to snipe you the whole time, right? Then, if you win your duel, you're going to grab their special ammo and you'll only get one shot. This is getting much more back to the classic, like, special weapons are really special, right? Like, if you can master a sniper, it's a one-hit kill. And if not, it's an instantaneous, incredible amount of damage, right? The shotgun is going to shut somebody down if they really push you. Like, they're not going to be these things that you could just push out with, and then you get a kill and you start steamrolling with that weapon. They're going to be very good at what they're good at, and that's going to be kind of it. And you're not going to be able to just, only run with... I think fusions are probably the most guilty for this, being able to just run a fusion and never run anything else. And some people even run double special, like a fusion and a shoddy or a fusion and a sniper. It's kind of crazy. So you're not gonna be able to really do that anymore. Darth, how you feel?
This blew my mind.
Yeah.
Because when they were mentioning how if they have to nerf it again, I was kind of scared because I thought they were going to take the D1 approach when they just took our special away in general after we died.
Mm-hmm.
And that really killed PvP then in D1 because that limited loadouts big time. It was icebreaker or nothing.
Right, exactly.
Invective or nothing. Universal remote or nothing.
Yep.
So here, I was like, I think honestly that this is the biggest thing in this whole TWAB. I really do. Because Destiny 2 is a special weapon game right now. It's unfortunate, but that's basically what it is. And limiting it to just one ammo, like what?
Yep. You get two shots right in the beginning, as far as I understand. You'll come in, you'll have your two sniper shots. I mean, I think in trials you're gonna see a lot more snipers, just because of the one hit kill potential is really crazy. So you can go in, get the snipe off, and a lot of people will probably just swap after that. Honestly, that will probably be my strat. You can call me cheesy or whatever, but I will probably push in with a snipe, try and get my pick. I don't have it, I'm going to swap, to a messenger and keep moving. And I think you're probably going to see that a lot. But you might see people still hold shoddy just for when they're, when people are pushing, or you might see fusion depending on the map. But you get two chances, right? You get two chances. The best players will get 2 kills, and the lower tier players will have 2 chances to get a kill, right? And then if they don't have it, they don't have it. And if they do get a kill, then maybe they'll get a brick, and that's it. And I think so that mastering your special weapon is more important than ever. Almost like heavy. I know a lot of people who don't really play their heavy enough, so they don't even pick up heavy because they're so scared of it, because they're like, well, I never really use it, so I don't really know. They won't pick up the rocket, they won't pick up the machine gun or the sword, because they're like, well, I just don't really feel that comfortable with it. In my hands, it won't really help. I think that a lot of the time that's why we just see ease of use rockets, right? Everybody's always picking up the easiest rocket that they can just kind of jump up and spam it somewhere. Even linears are probably the second most common, I feel like, these days. Used to be probably GLs, but now it's linears just because people are realizing how sticky they are. But anyway, I feel like special weapons are closer to heavy weapons, which for me I'm happy about. You know me, I liked the double primary meta. I know a lot of people didn't like that, and I get it.
Like,
But I really like the double primary meta, and I think you'll see double primary make a big comeback here because why? Like, is there really a reason to hold the shoddy? I think shoddies will be in sixes will probably be all right. Fusions too, because hand cannons are so popular, and I think as we'll see, they're not really going to change too much.
yeah.
But anyway, we'll see how this changes. I don't want to spend too much time on this. Let's start going a little bit faster here when it comes to the special weapons. So first of all, I want to show you guys this graph. This graph is a weapon perk percent of time. Oh yeah, weapon perks percent of time by week. Now, I don't know why it says weapon perks. I think they actually just meant like the weapon type. So you can see the different breakdowns of the weapons here. You can see by a massive margin, shotguns everybody's using. Shotguns are number one. But you can see them fusion rifles are kind of creeping up. You can see that the sniper rifles, they're pretty consistent. Like sniper rifles, I feel like for the most part kind of just depends on the map, depends on, what's popular. But snipers, I mean, you either like them or you kind of don't, and I feel like they're pretty balanced right now. Whereas, fusions are definitely gaining a lot of momentum, and shotguns are still, like, the ease of use is clearly there. Linears and GLs, I mean, there's literally only two linears you can use for the special weapon slot, and then grenade launcher, there's just not that many of them, and I think, which is great. I think there's two that are very popular, which are the two exotic ones, and then I think there is a bit of a skill gap. I know PC players, especially very good PC players, clown on that, but I do think there legitimately is a skill gap, for GLs, and obviously the glaive is, not very popular right now. There are some changes coming to the glaive, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So obviously they show this because it's kind of a precursor to the entire conversation. So special weapons, first thing is that we are going to talk about in-air accuracy. In-air accuracy is just changing. One of the major changes before we really dive into it is just the fact that instead of just being completely inaccurate and kind of random when you jump up in the air, there's going to be more accuracy overall, but you're gonna have way less aim assist, like way less, like zero, like barely any. And the lower your in-air accuracy stat is going to be, the less accuracy that you'll have and the less aim assist you'll have. So the reason I state this, not to jump to the in-air accuracy conversation, is because special weapons are generally going to have very bad in-air accuracy. Very bad in-air accuracy. So if you want to build into your slug shotgun being able to jump snipe somebody, if you want to be able to build your sniper to be able to do that, you're gonna have to actually really build it out here. So that's the first thing I just want to mention. And before we get Darth's thoughts on that, because I think again we'll talk more about inner accuracy in a bit. I actually want to go into sniper rifles because I think that's actually a bigger deal for both Darth and I. We both like sniping. And there's a fairly significant change here. They reduced the stow, ready, and aim down sight times by 10%. So so stow speed, which is how fast you put it away, ready speed, which is how fast you pull the weapon out after you're swapping from your other weapon, and ADS time, right? So the time it takes for you to actually aim down sight by 10%. All snipers should now feel snappier, right? All of them should feel snappier. We'll talk about snapshot later, but the reason that they did this literally was because you always had to use snapshot. How do you feel about that, Darth?
I actually like this more for PvE than
Interesting.
PvP.
Okay.
Yeah, because in PvE you would use just damage perk. So you would either go an ammo perk and then a damage perk. So like triple tap Warple,
Yep.
and that'll make the handling drop big time. It'll feel bad. So like sometimes we would think, okay, we would want snapshot Warple. I mean, like, yeah, now this feels nice.
Right.
So so now the 10% now in PvE on the PvE side, I feel like it's good for sure.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good point. I never even really thought about that. I think this definitely changes, the idea around snapshot. I think especially you and I have been talking a lot about using high handling snipers generally. Like we're like, yeah, it's actually really
Hmm.
nice when you have fluted and on a sniper rifle and it already has intrinsic high handling. It's like it sucks that rapid fires aren't the greatest snipers in the world because they feel so good. It's like
They do,
it's
yeah.
hard to play with with an aggressive sniper even though they're so good because the handling just isn't like I've been using surplus a lot on my snipers because they just feel. I have a surplus snapshot sight, which a lot of people are like, why would you do that? Like you don't really need that if you have snapshot. But the surplus really does make it feel better. So the fact that it's also going to get an extra 10% boost, not to handling core, just these three things, it is going to make it feel a lot better. So I think this is cool. I think this is really, really cool. We'll talk more about snipers later because we are going to talk about opening shot and snapshot. But for now, let's keep moving on here. Slug and pellet shotguns. So the thing here is that they're basically getting a nerf. Reduce the fall off damage start and end by 1 meter. So the start of fall off damage is going to be sooner, and the end of that is also going to be sooner. So that kind of sucks. And reduced aim assist and magnetism fall off start and end by 2 meters. So where you were getting aim assist, the reduction of that, the general reduction of that, now is going to start off even sooner than your damage fall off generally. So that's a pretty big nerf. A lot of the reason I say this is a big nerf is because we're talking about people always trying to figure out, okay, 7.5 meters, 7 meters, 6 meters, which is the furthest out I can get this shot off, right? Like that's always the question, right? Where can I get a consistent 6 meter one tap? Where can I get a consistent 7 meter one tap? Like, is that possible? Where is that gap, right? That's always the question. That's not the question anymore. The question is now, where can I get the 5 meter? Where is the 5 meter one tap? It's no longer where is the 6 meter, where is the 7 meter. It is now the 5 meter. This is a really, 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 really big deal. This is I think this is massive. I think this is gonna one cement SMGs and sidearms much more in the meta than they were before, and two, shotguns are getting really put in their place where you're using this weapon in close quarters, and if you're gonna push, you got to be able to push well, or you have to build into the ability to push, or you're going to have to lower your enemy's health before you get to do that push, or play reactively, right? You're going to use it in a reactive sense. Darth, you and I both use shotties, whether we're talking about Chaperone, using slugs, my favorite shotgun literally ever is obviously the 7th Seraph shotgun. I love that thing. Quick draw, snapshot sight. Yeah, it's beautiful. But what do you think about this change?
Poor shotguns, man. They can't catch a break. It's
Nerf
funny because
after nerf.
I have the most kills with shotties too. So
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, 5 meters now. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the week by week chart is gonna look like for shotties now.
Yeah.
After this, it's gonna go down a lot.
Yeah.
It's like slugs. I feel like are hard to nerf just because of what they are.
Right.
But as far as the other 3 frames of 3 frames of shoddy, mm, crazy, especially for the aggressives. I
Yeah.
feel like the aggressives are going to take a big hit from this.
I honestly
I'm
was kind of
surprised,
surprised. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I think you were about to say the same
I'm
thing.
surprised, I'm surprised lightweight is so has such a big
Chunk.
margin in that chart there. Yeah,
I think
you would
it's
think.
because they're so popular, right? Like the amount of them, right? You've got the brand new one that we just got, the one that's obviously super super different looking than all the rest of them, the one from Dares.
Oh yeah.
Reese, which is arguably one of the best shotguns. Period. And then you still have 7th Seraph, which is my favorite, and then you have the returning. Right? Is that a lightweight? the Void one from Dreaming City.
No, that's
That's
precision.
precision, right? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So yeah, I think that's why. I mean, I think aggressives, you know, I think aggressives generally don't feel that good to people. So I think you have a lot of casuals who probably aren't using it, and then the best aggressive is, gated by one of the hardest activities in the game, right? So
True.
I think you basically only have Gil using it, and then I'm using lightweights. And then I mean you see how shot package is just hilarious. It's still a pretty large margin for having been so nerfed, right? And I think that's
Hmm.
actually really interesting. The how large of a nerf that is, yet still being there, probably because people just don't know. Look at that rapid fire frame though. Oh
I
my
was just
god, you see this green? Insane. Insane. It's also funny how large precision. It's interesting. It's not that uneven, right? Like aggressive, precision, even shot package. Like I mean, obviously at the end you can see obviously in April. I mean, look, the margins are really large there. Lightweights are just dominating. But in the middle, it really wasn't that bad. So I'm surprised. The reason I'm surprised is just to be clear, this is affecting all shotguns. So this isn't just aggressives or something like that. This is all shotguns, and this really surprises me. The reason I say that is because this isn't going to help rapid fires. This isn't going to help uh, you know shot package. It's not going to help any of these things, right? It's just kind of nerfing them all. I would have thought that they were going to do that to I honestly thought they would have done it to everything except rapid fires. But we might see something like change where they might just do a blanket change, or they do a blanket change and then they say, okay, now we're going to, increase the range of all rapid fires or something. But this is interesting because do I think the shotguns are nerfed into the ground? Definitely not. The ease of use is too strong on shotties.
yeah.
And I mean that in the sense of not ease of use of getting a one kill. I just mean what a shotty is, right? It will still one hit when someone gets in your face or when you close the gap. And there's a lot of maps that are small, as we know. I think hand cannon shotty is still going to be very popular, but we might see hand cannon sniper a little bit more. But we'll see. We'll
I
see.
like that.
Yeah, I think this is okay. I'm still going to use my shoddy when I feel like it's warranted.
Of course.
Of course, I will probably still use double primary because that's just the kind of guy I am.
Oh no.
So they were concerned, right? Because we saw in this special weapon chart here, fusion rifles are starting to gain some ground, right? Now a lot of this is, we saw a big change in fusion rifles when all of the sudden we saw main ingredient come into play, right? Main ingredient came into play and everybody started using it, right? It lost some room with likely suspect, and then this is probably when Zer sold it. This
Yeah. Yeah.
this jump, which is kind of crazy, but you can see like Snorri and some of these other weapons coming in. It's kind of crazy. So they were like, like we don't want special weapons to get like too crazy, right? Or we don't want this weapon to get fusions to get too crazy. So they're also nerfing fusion rifles. Now there are some changes to fusion rifles as well, but first I just want to go over the nerf here. Reducing damage fall off. So that's the same thing as we were talking about before, right? So you can see 2 meters at zero range. So it's reducing it by 2 meters at zero range, and they're reducing it at 1.3 meters at 100 range. So your fusion rifle is going to get nerfed at least 1.3 meters and at max 2 meters. I don't You can't really get zero range on a fusion, so it'll be somewhere in between there, right? Probably around, you know, 1.5 or something like that is probably the majority of them. So that's kind of crazy. 1 meter just chopped off the top at least. Reduced damage fall off far distance, so the kind of where it caps, right? Same thing, 1 meter. And then reduced recoil scalar variance between 0 and 100 stability. So from what I understand is this is like the recoil probably the spread within that recoil is my assumption. I don't 100% know, but from zero for zero stability, apparently they're saying that variance is going to be at a 0.75, and then at 100 it's going to be increased from zero point 0.5 to 0.55. So I'm actually not sure. My assumption actually is that there's just less variation because like via stability, but I'm not 100% sure. This is probably something that we'll have to come back to and understand more later. I think the biggest thing right now is going to be damage fall off, and I think the combination of kind of like a recoil change here is going to make it very hard, as they actually say here, to one hit. They should be very uncommon now at further ranges. And even we're seeing likely suspect like map people constantly, and I think that's one of the concerns there. What do you think about this, Darth? This is a big change. And actually, before we talk about that, let's go into the rest of the fusion rifle changes. Yeah, let's go through the rest of the fusion rifle changes, because it, even though there's some range changes, there are some buffs. There are some buffs. And I do want to go over that. So high impacts, those are being buffed. So instead of being a 1 second charge time, which was awful, it's a 0.96, and that's the that's the unmodified charge time. And then increase the damage per burst by 10. So it's doing more damage and less charge time. So it's just a blanket buff for all high impacts. I don't know if it's enough for me to try it, but who knows. Precisions are getting a nerf, so they're actually going to be longer to charge. And then rapid fires are also getting a nerf. They are also getting an increase in charge time. They're also getting a decrease per burst by 20. So this is per burst, by the way. So it's not per bolt. It's per burst. So you probably can't miss nearly as much, is my assumption. Basically, what that's saying. So you probably can one hit in very close situations. But again, that charge time is a little higher. Still, rapid fires I think are going to be really good, but there's going to be a little bit less forgiveness. And so you can see here new charge time and damage per burst for all fusion rifle subfamilies. So you can see these are all the charge times now, and these are the full damage per burst. And so I think if you're wondering, like, first of all, these are high numbers, so I think that like Voops are always able to one hit, but the reason that we're like always talking about range and stuff is how far can we get that Voop? How many bolts do we need to get that Voop, right? So you can take the number of bolts that a high impact has, divide it by 330, and that's how many bolts you need, right? To actually, well, you'll know how many that is, and then you can do the math there. So it's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. Now that we know all the changes here, Darth, what do you think?
Starting with the charge time stuff, no, I don't think the nerfs to precision and rapid fire charge times will make a difference in their activity and usage.
Mm-hmm.
As far as high impacts go, I think that's still a little too much. Like, I know if they lower it a little more, it would be how it was before. Too good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I like it though. I think it's good though, because people will still use the what fusion rifle is that? From the Dawning.
You talking about Glacial
Um,
Chasm?
yeah,
Yep.
that's the only high impact people use.
Yeah, I definitely see it. I definitely still see it.
I can't think of any other high impact fusion
I think that's it.
other than that.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Nobody's using
So just that
what
Iota
Iota
Draconis.
Draconis. Yeah, nobody's using that thing.
I think out of the four, precisions got hit the least here because main ingredient it's still going to be very good just because of the shoddy nerf.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's still going to be. I think that's going to go up some for sure. Um, Rapid fires I think are going to be really good with the addition of the enhanced perks instead of just perks regularly.
Yeah,
I
that's a
think
good point.
enhanced perks are going to be more emphasized for rapid fires.
Yeah.
but I think for sure they'll still be good. The range nerfs, if you could scroll up so I can see it again.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think I'm like the opposite of you when it comes to the range nerf and the stability nerf. Stability really makes a fusion rifle
I agree with that.
for consistency.
Hmm.
So I think the range is a little less important. I think stability is just by a hair, not by a lot
Yeah.
downstairs.
I mean, I think I think the thing here is that it's not when we talk about range, we're actually not talking about the stat here, right? Like
Yeah, no.
it's just legitimately reduced by a meter, right? Like I think that's what's crazy is like, wherever you like I think people who are using likely suspect and they were using it with like the max stability roll, like they were like, let's just double down on stability here. I think they're gonna feel like, oh yeah, this isn't shooting as far as it was, but also shotguns got nerfed, so I'm not as afraid, right? Like I'm getting pushed back a meter, but so are shotguns. So it's not too bad, right? If you need to be scared of something, it should be SMGs and sidearms, which we're gonna talk about later, right? Like that seems like it should be the thing that you're now more scared of, because you can't hit out as far, and there's a little bit more variation around that recoil. I don't think the charge time is going to make a huge difference, but I do think the nerf is a little warranted because if you didn't change them, they might go a little out of control. Like I think people do probably need to feel a little bit uncomfortable around their charge times right now, and the nerf to damage a little bit, which again I think is probably going to make a difference per bolt. My assumption is we'll have like an Astacross or someone break down the actual number per bolt and be like, yeah, now it's going to be a this bolt kill, and it's only going to be at X amount of meters, right, comparatively to whatever it was. So, no one's done that math yet, but whatever that math's going to be, it's certainly different. And I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is
Definitely.
like the
Yeah.
amount of bolts you needed is going to change at particular ranges. And if you want to keep thinking about it in the same number of bolts, you're going to have to think about it in the exact range. So these numbers right here, the 240, or let's take a look at 330 damage for an entire burst. Obviously, this is kind of people are going to be looking at this like, oh, this is kind of nice, right? Because this will delete any guardian anytime, right? Like even in supers, this will probably delete a super, right? An overshield to delete anybody. This is pretty close as well. These two are a little bit scarier. They have longer, and they got their nerfs, right? I mean, adaptives didn't get the nerf, for charge time or anything, but they obviously still got nerfed with their range. So this will be interesting. I think there's a lot of theoretical questions around this, and like we'll see exactly what it looks like in practice. I think Darth, you're right about the enhanced perks. I think it kind of boosts that a little bit, which is kind of interesting. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I'm not going to go over the trace rifles. Just know that they got buffed here in for PvE. Um, so, pause for a second. So, this is the special weapon change. Now, there's some more things around flinch and air accuracy, when it comes to these special weapons. So, I'm thinking we go back up and we talk a little bit about flinch and we talk a little bit about in air accuracy. How does that sound?
That's good.
All right. There's also glaives. I did kind of forget about glaives. Just know, in my head, here's where I'm at with the glaives. They're getting buffed. They're getting buffed. They're getting buffed in a pretty great way. You can kind of just see here, just really, really quickly. It's going to do increased melee damage for PvE, reduce energy drain when shielding, which is really big in PvE and PvP. Projectile speed is being increased. That's a huge deal in PvE and PvP. The exotic glaives are being buffed, and they're honestly being buffed kind of in a really big deal. Like the Titan glaive, the overshield actually pops up when you go in and out of the bubble, which is kind of a big deal. And the Helm of St0mp-EE5 now works with that bubble, which is very different. So that's kind of cool for both PvE and could be really interesting in PvP. The Warlock glaive, basically they just made the turret better, faster, which is cool. I think the Warlock glaive is probably the best glaive generally because it just generally kind of did what it said it was going to do. It wasn't really, it's just, hey, we got heals, and then the Hunter glaive just got, I mean, it's just better. Tripled the damage, and increase the amount of enemies it can chain to. This is going to be the best ad clearing one. This is going to be an incredible defensive one, and then this is going to be still good for healing. So this is pretty cool. I actually really liked this, these changes, but it's not going to change too much about PvP. Some of it will, but I'm honestly not that versed in PvP when it comes to glaives. So I do want to jump into flinch here. Okay, so blanket thing around flinch is that everything is basically getting buffed. Getting buffed. So, and generally, is that right? Yeah, everything is mostly getting a buff. And there's a couple different ways that that's happening. First of all, flinch resistance is baked into stability now. So if you have 100 stability on an auto rifle, you'll get a 25% flinch resistance baked in to that auto rifle, which is pretty cool. So if you have a gnawing hunger that has 100 stability, you're gonna get 25. You're gonna get 25% flinch resistance. Now you can see as we go down, those numbers are lower and lower. Hand cannons, even if you have 100 stability, you're only getting 15, but you're still getting 15. So I just want to be clear about that. You're still getting these things, right? And then when you take a look at something like the special weapons, which is fusion rifles, grenade launchers, linears, these are getting 10%. Again, much lower. Sniper rifles, which I think is a big one. But again, still, it's more than it was before, which was nothing. That was not included with stability. There's also another thing. Resilience also now grants flinch resistance. Now, I am a stability person and I'm a high resil person. Why? I'm a Titan. Also, even on my Warlock, I have 100 resilience. So, and just to be clear, I run double hundreds on my Warlock. I also have 100 recovery. I don't want any Warlocks to flame me out here. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. So we now have two ways of increasing our flinch resistance, right? Both by having resilience and by having stability, which is pretty cool. Note that we still have things like no distractions, unflinching mods, rally barricade, right? So there are still things that give us resilience around flinch anyway, but this is now kind of how flinch works. Darth, what do you think? It's funny because we've been seeing a lot of videos on YouTube all about flinch, where they're like, let's make the most mitigating flinch. I think, who was it? Maybe Castle made a video all about, or no, I think it was Fallout. I think Fallout made a video all about flinch. So he's going to have to completely redo this. So what do you think? How are you feeling about this?
The other day, I literally said, stability on the sniper feels good.
Yeah.
So now this addition just goes right on into it.
It really does.
I love it.
It's going to make a big, I think, obviously we're not going to have 100 stability on our snipers, but
yeah.
I mean, even if you have 50, you now have a 5% increase, right? Or a 5% decrease in flinch, a 5% increase in your flinch resilience, or resistance. So if you're running 100 resilience, which I am, right? I'm going to have 10. If I have a 50%, if I have a 50 stability on my sniper, I've got another 10%, so it's 15%, right? And let's say I'm using a sniper rifle that has no distractions, that's another, amount, right? I can really build this in. And not to mention, if I'm just using an auto rifle, you know what I mean? With something like tap the trigger or something like that, or something that intrinsically gives me high stability. I think this is going to be pretty cool. I think this is important because we're going to have more and more fights like this, right? We're going to have more and more primary fights. So being able to actually have that fight is important. And if you don't have as good a shot as other people, you are going to have to play into things that are going to help with flinch, right? Because you have less flinch than ever. So you can either completely mitigate that, or you might say, okay, I'm going to have to use explosive payload, time payload. I might have to use these rounds that are actually going to help me win because I don't think I can win my duels as much. You're going to see a skill gap, I think, and so people are going to have to use these other things to kind of help with flinch. Kind of crazy, though. Overall, you'd say this is a good change, though, right?
I do.
Yeah, I think this is going to be awesome.
Pulse rifle, 20%. Oh,
Yeah,
wait.
right. Right. And we do have, obviously the new Pulse Rifle Peace of Mind has a great perk on it that allows you to, I think after a kill, the land tank, it allows you to basically be like unflinchable, which is pretty cool. So there's some really interesting synergies that we'll see here. All right, next is airborne gameplay. So, like I said, airborne is changing, right? Playing in the air is changing. Instead of just saying, "Hey, I'm going to put an Icarus mod on," here's the major thing, as I kind of mentioned. There's now an airborne stat, an airborne effectiveness stat. And just to give you some examples here, with this stat, if you had 0 to 30 in your airborne stat, then the character will have a similar accuracy penalty than retail, which is like the original, right? But will have a significantly lower aim assist, right? Significantly lower aim assist. So that's the change here, right? Is you're not really going to have that much of an accuracy penalty, but you are going to have significantly lower aim assist. Now, if you have 30 to 50, right, then the character will have around the same in-air accuracy as Icarus equipped weapons, right? So that's crazy, right? 30 to 50 is basically having Icarus, which is like almost perfect in-air accuracy, right? I mean, almost like 100% in-air accuracy. But you'll still have noticeably lower aim assist, so you got to have your shot on point. Then if you have 50 to 70, you're actually going to have better accuracy than Icarus. So this we've never had, right? We've never had better than Icarus accuracy in air. That's never existed before. So that's kind of cool. And you'll still have a little bit of randomness. You'll still have reduced aim assist, but barely, right? And then if you're getting close to 100, right? No airborne accuracy penalty at all, 0, which not even Icarus was doing, and slightly less aim assist. And if you actually got the 100, you would have the same aim assist that you would have on the ground with no airborne accuracy. So 100 means there are no changes. So this is really, really interesting. Just the theory alone, Darth, what are you thinking about that?
Them adding a whole new stat, in general, I think is pretty crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll be able to see the stat too, by the way, right? Like this is something we'll actually be
Yeah,
able to see on weapons.
it's a whole new stat.
Yeah. And I guess that is another thing to add here is that we are going to get to be able to see all of our stats with numbers and not just bars moving forward. I actually don't know what season that's going to happen, but we are going to actually be able to see that, which is pretty cool. Now, if I keep scrolling down again, we're not going to go through all of this. You'll see if you're interested. This shows exactly how the airborne stat is messing with things. We're talking about aim assist, accuracy cones, all this stuff. So this is like the Drewski stuff. This is like this is the Fallout stuff. This is some crazy stuff. This though is something I did want to show really quickly. So the airborne effectiveness stat comes from 3 sources: weapons, subclass, and armor. Right, so you can't get it from anywhere else. Weapons, subclass, and armor. The weapons base airborne stat will vary from 0 to 10 and 0 to 30 depending on the weapon archetype. So just to be clear, if we go back up here, 0 to 10 and 0 to 30 is this right here. So pre-Icarus. Everything pre-Icarus, right? But still better than before, but with lower aim assist. So still everything's basically a buff here. But if we take a look here, here are what the valid stat ranges are for legendary weapons. And by the way, Icarus now gives you plus 15. Now gives you plus 15. So also there are going to be air assault is coming back. But so hand cannons can get 0 to 25. So if you get a hand cannon at 15, or let's say you get a hand cannon at 20, and then you get a 15, you now have an Icarus hand cannon, basically. Right? Because Icarus, like an OG Icarus hand cannon. If you get a sidearm that has 30, automatically, you're already basically at the Icarus hand cannon, OG Icarus, OG Icarus, but now you're also getting plus 15. And again, if we scroll back up here, you can see really we're trying to get to that like 50 stat. So still not enough to get to the 50 stat. So you can see it's actually really hard to break that 30 to 50 stat. It's kind of crazy. I mean, you can see some weapons here, like, I don't know, sniper rifles, 0 to 5. Still accurate in the air, more accurate than before, but not having nearly as much aim assist, right? So even if you put an Icarus grip on, it'll help, but it's not going to break you out of even the 0 to 30 range, right? So you're going to have to do some other things. And so you can actually see here, higher tiers of legendary weapons will use the upper end of these ranges. So trials, raids, and nightfalls will have higher stats. So for snipers, if you want a really high stat, you're probably going to need to go get that sniper from trials, right? And then exotic weapons, some of them have outliers. So you can actually see some of these are breaking out of 30, right? You can see Skyburner's Oath has 35. Hilarious. Rat King has 30. Huckleberry has 33. So some of these are actually already out of the 30. And you can see some of them are extraordinarily low. Chaperone has 1. Ace of Spades is 14. So these are the lowest of the exotic pool. Kind of crazy. And then you can see here are some of the hand-tuned legendary stats, right? Submission with 27 off rip, right? Off rip. That's higher than a lot of these exotics. 27 off rip. You're seeing Hung Jury with 22. Igneous with 23. So some of these are already really, really high. Comparatively to the other ones. Again, we're nowhere near 100 here. But then you can also see things like subclasses. Heat Rising gives you plus 70. Plus 70, right? That's crazy. That's where you're going to start to get some of these 100s, right? If you go ahead and pop Heat Rising and you have a Huckleberry, you have 100% accuracy. Kind of crazy, right? Tempered Metal, which I think is a hunter ability.
Oh, that was Top Tree Hammer.
Tempered Metal is Top Tree Hammer?
I think so. I don't think that's a hunter thing.
I can't even. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I heard that perk. So plus 20, right? Whisper of Hedrons plus 20. So these are how you're really getting up there. And then of course there's the exotic armor pieces. And honestly, this is probably where we're gonna kind of take a pause here. This is probably the last thing we're gonna talk about. Maybe we'll review a couple other small things, but I think this is where a lot of people are getting kind of crazy right now. Peacekeepers is plus 40. Right? So every SMG you have is already going to be around that 50 mark for the most part. And if you have submission, you're already out of the 50. And so submission in Peacekeepers is going to be crazy in air, which is going to be really fun for me. I love SMGs, which I want to talk about. But this line right here. People are so upset about, which I don't really blame them, but the only exotic in the game that subtracts in air accuracy is Stompies. Minus 50. So no matter what weapon you have, unless you proc Heat Rising, right? Heat Rises, which is not possible because it's Stompies. You are going to have the worst in-air accuracy out of everybody. To be clear, you still have better in-air accuracy than you did before, but you have 0 aim assist. So when you're jumping in the air, you're going to be going up super high, and you'll still have good accuracy when you're aiming down and looking at somebody, but your aim assist will be virtually 0. Darth, this is where I want to pause here. We've talked about a lot.
Nerf Stompies without nerfing Stompies.
Right. They basically were like, hey, we don't want to change what Stompies does, We just want to make it harder for you when you actually use it. They're like, if you're going to be in the air all the time, you better believe that you better be good, right? Which is kind of crazy. So what do you think? What do you think about all this? There's a lot going on here, right? There's a lot going on.
Hunters got hit hard because that's all they do is jump.
Yeah.
As far as the Warlock and Titan go, really good buff. It's a buff for sure.
It's funny because it's only hitting hunters hard because of Stompies.
because of zombies. Going over this part, this is my third time going over it now. I have a more understanding of it now. Now,
Right.
as you were talking about it, I'm like, it got me thinking, how often do I jump with any weapon?
Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, auto rifle, I don't jump at all. So I was like, okay. So when I do jump, it's better now.
Yep.
And then as far as hand cannon goes, you jump a lot with the hand cannon, either in all three classes.
Mm-hmm.
A tiny buff, but a little nerf at the same time. That I like how the balance between the different archetype of weapons and the armor here is how pinpoint it is. I like how it synergizes.
Yeah, it's going to be a big. I think it's going to be a big deal because I think it is actually increasing the skill gap a bit. Right? Is like,
Hmm.
I mean, all of a sudden you're going to get these hand cannons, and like pound drone's probably going to have a great stat, and so people might not put Icarus grip on it anymore, or they might. But like, it's crazy because you're just now going to see people be better in the air generally with hand cannons. I think I think people who are on PC who are good on PC are gonna be even better. I think you're gonna see people who are on console spec into more on this stuff, right? Because they want to keep their aim assist. Not to say that people aren't going to want to do that on PC as well, or mouse and key. But if you're on mouse and key, it's going to be, you're already a really great shot. It'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I think this is actually really good. I like all of this. The Stompies thing is a little crazy, but I think you have to actually play it. Like, I don't think it's going to be that different. I really don't. I think they're just saying because you're getting all of this plus to go up in the air and be really fast, we're not going to make it easy for you to be able to, hit your shots. We're not going to stop you from hitting your shots, but we're not going to make it easy for you. Whereas the other weapons, like Peacekeepers for SMGs, like I'm not using SMGs in the air all that much, but now I feel like I kind of can. Like if I'm pushing somebody, I might jump off, somewhere and trying to go. And while I'm going down, I have great accuracy, and my aim assist is there. So like that kind of stuff is cool. Now Darth and I are kind of running out of time here, so I did just kind of want to go quickly over a couple things. And
No,
those
yeah, I gotta get my shoes. I also need some cufflinks. Can you give me some cufflinks?
so
It's just
down here you'll see primary weapons, some changes. Auto rifles are getting damage fall off increased. So the range at which the damage fall off is happening is increased by 0.75 meters. Just blanket buff on all auto rifles. That's pretty cool. I think that's going to help outduel SMGs. It's going to help outduel hand cannons. Not by a ton, but it is helpful. Pulse rifles are also getting an increase. You'll see here, depending on the range stat, it'll be anywhere from about 1 meter to about 2 meters. So that's kind of awesome. I like that. I mean, definitely not a bad thing. I mean, you're going to see Peace of Mind be even crazier, but that's kind of cool. And then Lightweight's got a change. Yeah, I mean, mostly just a buff here, right? So the per bullet, they went from 15 damage to 16, and the precision damage went from a 24.75 to a 26.4. And so this won't change the optimal time to kill in PvP, but it'll reduce the number of crits. So it's more forgiving than it was before. And this was actually a big complaint, I believe, by Cool Guy recently. Where he was like, these lightweights just need help. Like, there's just, no one's using lightweights because, like, no one's using Augma. He was mentioning Augma. He's like, no one's grabbing the Augma and being like, I can't wait to use the Augma in PvP because it's just not, it's why would somebody do that? So this is definitely good, and I do like this change as well. So auto rifles, pulse rifles, and then I think the biggest change here is going to be submachine guns. So submachine guns are getting equalized. It's not a nerf or a buff necessarily for all or for whatever. They're getting equalized. So they're actually getting a blanket buff, increase the damage fall off. So a little bit more range, right? Generally, but you'll also see the variations in zoom change. So Shayura's is going down a zoom, 17 to 16. Multi-Mach is going down from a 17 to a 15. That's if you had the best scope. If you had the second best scope, then you're going down to a 14. But so Shayura's now has the best range, and Multi-Mach now has, the best zoom, and Multi-Mach now has, well, 15, which is now the same as something like Huckleberry. You have stochastic variable that went up from 13 to 14, which generally people said stochastic variable was pretty bad because it was at 13. Ikelos, same thing. It was at 13. Even though it was a beast, it couldn't hang because it was at 13. Now it's a 14. And the 7th Seraph SMG that nobody really uses is at a 14. Every Waking Moment, which I really, really like, the Void SMG is now at a 14. So a lot of cool changes here. Huckleberry, I think, is probably the one I'm most excited about, because people basically were like, Huckleberry's not good because it's at a 13. So this is kind of crazy. Adaptive submachine guns are starting to make a comeback. The reason here, some of the changes that they're making here is increased precision multiplier, but decrease the body damage because the body TTK was a little too good. That's kind of all I want to talk about. There's some things about heavy weapons. There's some crazy changes for exotics, but mostly for the PvE side. So we're not really going to go through that, and maybe we'll find some time to go through that later. I mean, there's a reduced penalty for last word, which is great on mouse and key, so that's good. But generally, all of this stuff is pretty PvE focused. So Darth, last thing really is just how do you feel about these weapon changes? Auto rifles, pulse rifles, and submachine guns.
The pulse rifle one was the one I was looking at the most, especially for the lightweights. Because I was talking with our clanmate we just call him Panda.
Yeah.
About he mentioned Chattering Bone, and I was like, he was like he wishes he could use it, but he can't because it's not that good. So I feel like the change to his damage and the less the less crits you have to hit now.
Right.
I think the usage isn't going to go up that much, but it's usable now, which I'm very excited because I really like lightweights, being that pulse rifles are my favorite type of weapon.
Right.
I think the auto rifle was that a buff now?
Yes, yeah. So increased damage fall off. So where the fall off happens is now further out. It's further out by 0.75. Yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah.
That's pretty great. I'm really happy about that. The 0.75 change, hopefully that'll help. The pulse rifle increase. For me, I think the biggest thing, right, is the submachine guns. I think submachine guns really were unequalized. I almost deleted all my submachine guns because I had a Multi-Mach and I had a Shayura's. It was like, well, I have the two best SMGs by a landslide. 17 and 17. Everything else was like at a 13. Look at these. These were all at 13. Huckleberry, Every Waking Moment, 7th Seraph, Ikelos, Stochastic were all at 13. And Shayura's and Multi-Mach were at a 17.
Yeah.
That's insane. So I'm happy with this. I think it's going to make, and especially with the nerf to shotguns and fusions, like they don't need that much range. I'm not trying to outduel auto rifles with an SMG. I'm trying to outduel shotguns and fusions with an SMG. And if I can close the gap, yeah, of course I'll challenge anything. But if I can't close the gap, I shouldn't be able to win with an SMG. I should have to swap to my hand cannon or my pulse or my sniper, right? So I personally really like that change. All right, we're out of time.
Huckleberry.
Right.
Huckleberry.
We'll see. I love my Huckleberry. And it's gonna be one of the best, clearing out an entire team, right? I get that first kill, especially if you're running like a warlock. Oh my god. Proc Devour. Imagine. I'm in the secant filament, somebody's pushing me, I swap, I'm like, I gun him down, and then I'm just gone. Alright. Darth, thank you so much. I appreciate the time. It's been fun. It's been real. Everybody, thank you so much. I know this video was a long one, but we really wanted to just make this video. We're going to go ahead and throw this up on YouTube, which is obviously where you're watching this. If you've enjoyed it, if you thought that this was good, helpful, let us know in the comment section down below. But outside of that, I'll see you guys online, of course. Catch you on the next one. Peace!